Well, we're live at the Attridgeville Correctional Centre here in Pretoria, and this is where convicted murderer Oscar Pistorius will be appearing before the parole board. Just to take you back, you would recall that Judge Thokozile Masipa had initially meted out a sentence of 6 years for Oscar Pistorius, but prosecutors were not happy with that. They believed that the sentence was too lenient, and after the courts had deliberated, Oscar Pistorius was then meted out with a lengthier sentence of 13 years and some months. Now, Oscar Pistorius has served more than 7 years of that, which makes him eligible for parole. What we do understand this morning is that the mother of Reeva Steenkamp, June, will be at the parole hearing this morning. She will not be accompanied by her husband, Barry Steenkamp, who we understand is too ill to attend the parole hearing. But June Steenkamp will be accompanied by the family's lawyer. But what is quite crucial about today's proceedings or the hearing is that what the parole board would need to consider is whether Oscar Pistorius is a rehabilitated man, considering the seriousness of the offence that he committed, whether Oscar Pistorius would not be a further danger to society. What they also need to take into account is whether Oscar Pistorius had participated in any of the remedial classes while he was incarcerated. So those are just some of the aspects that the parole board would need to take into account. I do understand that June Steenkamp, who was Reeva Steenkamp's mother, is also likely to give oral or written representations before the parole board this morning. But ultimately, it is the parole board that will have the final decision about whether Oscar Pistorius will be let out of jail. You would recall, if I could just add a bit more context to this, is that Oscar Pistorius was not sentenced to life imprisonment. So the parole hearing or the final decision would be different for the two. In the instance of a lifer, someone who is sentenced to life imprisonment, it would be the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services who would be the final arbiter on deciding whether that offender would be granted parole. But in the instance of Oscar Pistorius, who is now eligible for parole, it's the parole board that will make the final decision after collating all the evidence that will be brought before this particular parole hearing. We also understand that Oscar Pistorius is also likely to testify to try and convince the parole board that he is a rehabilitated man. But the final arbiter or the final decision maker with regard to whether Oscar Pistorius will be let out of jail will be the parole board, but also not to really jump the gun. But in an instance where Oscar Pistorius is denied parole, one of the prospects is also that he could take the decision of the parole board on review and bring it before the parole review board. That is if, of course, the parole board does decide that it is not going to let him out on parole. And if he feels that once he takes it on review, he's still not satisfied, if the decision goes against him, of course, he is also could possibly approach the Constitutional Court. So I just wanted to bring some context into the different aspects when it comes to who decides on the parole of an offender. But we are expecting the family of Reeva Steenkamp, June Steenkamp, the mother, who is the one who will be attending the parole hearing, to arrive here just at about 9:30. She will be accompanied by the family lawyer. But what we do know is that the Steenkamps will be opposing, Oscar Pistorius being let out of jail. They still believe that, letting him out on parole will not be in the interest of justice. They say they still haven't healed. You would know that it's already 10 years now since Oscar Pistorius had shot and killed his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp, and he has maintained until the end that he believed that she was an intruder at the time that the incident had taken place. He's maintained that, of course, until the end of the trial itself, which saw him incarcerated. But another moment for the Steenkamp family here this morning as they try to put through representations on why they believe their daughter's killer should not be paroled.